My husband secretly divorced me months ago, but kept sleeping in my bed to hide his debt. Then I won the $640 million lottery. When he tried to claim half as my loving spouse, he didn't know I had already prepared for him. I found the divorce papers in January, not because he told me, because I was looking for our car insurance documents in his office and opened the wrong drawer. Final decree of dissolution, filed and granted 4 months earlier in September. I sat at his desk and read every page twice. He'd filed in a county 2 hours away using an address I'd never seen. He listed the marriage as having no shared assets, no shared property, no children. The judge signed it, and it was done. We were legally divorced, and I had never been served, never been notified, and never signed anything. He forged my signature on every response document. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I put the papers back exactly where I found them and closed the drawer quietly. That night he came home, kissed me on the cheek, and asked what was for dinner. I made pasta. He ate it and watched TV and fell asleep next to me in our bed. Except it wasn't our bed anymore. Nothing was ours. He had made sure of that without telling me. I spent 2 weeks figuring out why he did it. The answer was in his credit card statements, which I found on our shared computer where he never bothered to log out of anything. He had $187,000 in debt spread across 4 cards. Cash advances, online gambling, a lease on an apartment across town I never knew about. He divorced me quietly so that when creditors eventually came after him, nothing would be tied to both of our names. He was protecting himself, not me. I was his cover. A wife who paid the mortgage and the utilities and bought the groceries while he burned through credit lines and gambled everything away. The house was in my name only because my mother helped me buy it before we got married. Both cars were in my name. He had nothing registered to him on paper. That was the whole point of what he did. He erased himself legally while still living under my roof, eating my food, sleeping in my bed, and letting me believe we were married. I called a lawyer the next week. Not a family lawyer. A fraud attorney named Beth who specialized in financial crimes. I explained the forged signature, the secret filing, the hidden debt. She said the divorce was likely voidable because of the forgery, but she also said something that changed how I thought about everything. If the divorce stands as is, his debts are entirely his. None of it can touch you. But if you void it and restore the marriage, you could become partially liable for what he owes depending on how the court views the timeline. I told her to hold off on any filings. I needed to think. In March, I bought a lottery ticket at a gas station on the way home from work. I bought one every Friday. It was a $3 habit that never meant anything. This time it meant $640 million. When I checked the numbers the next morning and realized what I was holding, I drove straight to Beth's office before I went anywhere else. I told her what happened. She told me to say absolutely nothing to anyone and to sign nothing. That afternoon, she set up a blind trust. The trust claimed the winning ticket. My name appeared nowhere on the public records. The money went into accounts that had no connection to my home address, my personal bank, or anything my husband could find or trace. I went home that evening and acted completely normal. He was on the couch watching a game. How was your day? Fine, I said. Yours? Same. I heated up leftovers. We ate. He was asleep by 9. The next morning I had him served. Not with breakfast. With a civil fraud complaint for forgery and identity theft related to the divorce he filed without my knowledge. A deputy knocked on our door at 7 in the morning while he was still half asleep. He opened the envelope and stared at the pages. Then he looked up at me. What is this? I found the divorce papers back in January. His whole face fell apart. I can explain. You don't need to explain. We're already divorced. You handled that yourself. But the house is in my name. Always was. But the cars. Also mine. But we're married. No, we're not. You filed the papers yourself. The court granted it. He started pacing around the room, hands on his head. Okay, we can fix this. We'll remarry. I'll get the filing thrown out. I don't want to fix it. Why not? I didn't answer. I didn't tell him about the money. He found out 6 weeks later when his sister saw a local news piece about an anonymous lottery winner from our zip code. He called me 14 times in 1 hour. I answered the last one. You won. I did. We need to talk. That's marital property. We weren't married when I bought that ticket. You made sure of that. I'll take you to court. With what money? You owe $187,000 across 4 credit cards and you're facing a fraud charge. He went quiet. His attorney contacted Beth the following week trying to argue the divorce was invalid due to the forgery, which would mean we were technically still married when I won. My lawyer's response was simple. Either the divorce was valid and he had no claim, or it was fraud and he'd face charges. He dropped it. I changed the locks that week.